Hello and welcome to the second ever premium episode of One More Short Story with me, Chris Fulwell. We have so much to do. Good grief, between me and you, we have so much to do. This is our biggest episode ever. Don't worry, it's not just me yammering on for the whole show. Nobody wants that. Not even me. Especially not me. We've got stories. We've got 2 author interviews with the wonderful R.L. Lynn and Katie D. We don't have an interview with the third author because the third author is me and I don't want to do that. I don't want to interview myself, at least not out loud. We do, however, have an interview with an avid listener of the show whose name is Mark Godwin, who's narrated one of the stories and has fantastic insights into short fiction, short narrated fiction, and I think whether you're an enjoyer of short fiction or a writer or an aspiring writer, you're going to enjoy all 3 of these interviews in very different ways. And of course, we're going to have the story selection raffle after Harry Humber's lucky selection last time. So let's get right into it. Let's get cracking with our first story and our first author. Our first author today, we are joined by R.L. Lynn. Rebecca, hello, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
And now the listeners won't know this, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, but we actually did record this previously, but my technical ineptitude meant that everything Rebecca said was echoing like she was standing on top of a mountain and shouting at me. So she's been incredibly patient and come back on the show to record this again. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. But I gotta say, I kind of like the idea of my voice, having that gravitas.
I mean,
It's
I'm not gonna fight you for it. Absolutely, I'm not gonna fight you for that. So we're here today to talk about a variety of things. First and foremost, your story from, I think it was the Wonder Battle from last year. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And that was the adventure genre. How did you feel when you landed in the adventure genre? Was it your favorite? Were you fairly nonplussed about the whole thing?
I wasn't opposed to it. I was definitely not going to roll out of it because I really did not want sci-fi. So that was like the one genre. It was sci-fi, fantasy, fairy tale, and adventure. And I would have been fine with anything except for sci-fi. And I'm pretty sure that I got adventure initially and was like, okay, I can make this work.
The prompts were for this one. They were. Tell me if I got this right. This is you had adventure, tormentor,
Mm-hmm.
and kite. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
All right.
correct. Yep.
And without giving the game away, because we'll hear the story very soon. How did your brain leap from those 3? Quite a heady mix of prompts there. How did it leap from that to the story concept you ended up with?
Well, I'll have to spoil it a little bit, but
Okay, that's okay.
I
That's all
was
right.
I was
It's your story.
I was I was pretty heavily pregnant at the time, like a week away from giving birth. I'm not sure where I had the idea to do the adventure the way I did it. I think it just popped into my head like, oh, that would be fun. And then the tormentor prompt, I'm pretty sure I had rolled out of an initial character into that and then had the idea for how I could work that into the story. The kite prompt, I used up every last reroll trying to get something better than that and then got stuck with it at the end and kind of just had to make it work. So the kite
And
prompt was not integral to the creation of the story.
people
We'll just
have
say
people have very lengthy debates and conversations about prompt integration in a writing contest. I think it's completely fair to say, look, you've absolutely got to use them somehow.
yeah,
I've read the story, I've heard the story. I think it's completely fair to say within 1,000 words, you absolutely did use them. We're not looking at a situation where you're saying, and here's my story. Oh, and look, that shop sells kites. Moving on.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not one of those. It's not. You have used it cleverly, and I think people are going to enjoy the way you have done that because, well, I don't know about you, but I find it in writing that if someone just says, go and write 1,000 words, I'll see you in a few days, I'm staring at a blank page. Whereas if, I think the constraints help, don't they? They make a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They help you to see things that you may not have seen otherwise. And look in like different ways and think outside the box. And yeah, no, I think they're definitely very helpful to the writing process, even as they can feel confining. So
Yes, yes, it's a
yeah.
blessing and a curse, isn't it? And I think, I have to, I take my hat off to you because, and I know you won't be the only person in the writing battle community in this situation, but to be able to write a story when heavily pregnant, obviously I've not got direct biological experience of this, but I've got two kids. My wife's gone through the many biological challenges, etc., of having children, and being able to sit down and write a story in that situation is very, very impressive.
I made sure that I had the story written before I gave birth, and then I had like 3 days to polish it up.
Oh my
So,
word!
but at least it was written before I actually gave birth. But yes, I did give birth right in the middle of the Wonder Battle time frame there, the story writing part. So
I mean,
yeah.
that is commitment. Max Tiona, if you're listening, this is commitment from Rebecca here. So
I
we
wasn't
are.
the only
Oh,
one
gone.
too who was really pregnant during that battle. So
Oh
there was
really? Oh
actually two of
gosh.
us.
Oh
Yeah.
my word. Okay. Well, I think we're slightly dancing around the
Yeah.
story itself. So I think now would be a good time to listen to it. Now we have a family affair here. We have your sister, I believe, reading this
Yes.
for us.
I wasn't sure how readable this story was going to be, which people will probably be able to see why when they listen to it. But I think she's done like a phenomenal job with doing that. So yeah, I hope people enjoy it.
I've not even said the title. I've got so excited by what we're talking
Oh,
about that I've not said the title. Here we go. The title is B Day. Now, B Day. That's B-Day, as in a slight play on D Day, rather than something you might find in a French person's bathroom. And I think it's important we get that
correct.
distinction at this stage. So here we go.
That's
Without further faffing about from me, we have B Day by R.L. Lynn, narrated by Emily Lange.
It wasn't easy being the commanding officer over a bunch of ornery organs. Order, Brain shouted. I'm calling this meeting to order. Her crew ignored her, their excited chatter reaching a frenzied pitch. Hey, Brain bellowed. Quiet now! The voices fell silent. Thank you. Now we are T minus 15 days and we need a status update. Vix, what are we looking at? Still fully closed, Cervix answered, annoyed. Same as when you asked yesterday. Brain bit back a harsh retort. Check. Yudi, how's that amniotic fluid? 4 centimeters, Brain. We're swimming in it down here, replied Uterus. Are daily meetings really necessary, Brain? Cervix interrupted. Brain huffed in irritation. Do I need to remind you of the incident from a few days ago? That wasn't my fault, Yudi. I already apologized, Uterus broke in. I lost track of time. Besides, the occupant took zero initiative. Occupant, muttered Bladder. More like sadistic tormentor. I am not accusing anyone, Brain raised her voice again. I'm merely pointing out that we need to be ready for the unexpected. Can we confirm the incident remains resolved? Vix? Affirmative. Occupant in correct position. I should know. He keeps headbutting me. Aw, is that uncomfortable for you? At least you haven't been stretched to 4 times your normal size, Abdomen groused. Bladder scoffed. Oh, quit your belly aching. Do I need to remind everyone how many trips to the bathroom I require these days? The overtime alone. I haven't taken a deep breath in 3 months, grumbled Lungs. I really need a drink, Liver whined. Brain buzzed with frustration. Enough! This isn't a contest over who has suffered the most. Our mission is clear. Ensure that the occupant, sadistic tormentor, that the occupant is delivered safely to the outside world. A violent jolt cut Brain off, followed by several shouts of agony. What in the fiery hemorrhoids was that? Demanded Abdomen. Felt like someone just plunged 10 knives into me. Hang on, said Brain. It appears our host is flying a kite? She was running and stumbled over something. She's doing what? Is she trying to compromise the mission? Bathroom. Now. Calm down, everyone. Looks like the husband made her stop. Brain relayed, relieved. Now, if we could please focus. Brain. No, Vix. No more interruptions. We need to finish. Brain, we've got a problem. I don't care if the occupant is headbutting you. Brain, we've got leakage. Major leakage. There was a pregnant pause. Vlad, any of that come from you? Brain finally questioned. That's a negative, Brain. Are you sure? Check again. I think I would know. I'm not the source of the leak. That would be a first, snorted Cervix. Talk to me, Yudi, said Brain, pivoting quickly. Assessing the situation. Stand by. The seconds ticked by, agonizingly slow. Then came Uterus's panicked voice. Can confirm. Amniotic fluid down to 3 centimeters and dropping fast. Holy heartburn, Brain cursed. Okay, everyone, we're a little early, but this is not a drill. Yudi, how's our occupant doing? Steady heartbeat, vitals strong. Excellent. How about hormones? Any contractions yet? That's a negative, Brain. That's okay. I'll rouse pituitary. As for the rest of you, you know what to do. Abdomen gave a low groan. Ugh, I have a bad feeling about this. 5 hours later, and Brain was starting to feel the fatigue of the mission. Brain, contractions incoming. Enemy pain sensors approaching. Brain braced herself, letting the wave signals wash through her. Thanks, Yudi. Threat has been neutralized. They're going to get worse, Uterus warned. Nothing I can't handle. Vix, dilation update. 6.5 centimeters, Brain. Reinforcements should be coming any minute now. This was always where their host would opt for some pain management assistance. Brain would welcome the relief. Another half hour crept by. That's 7 centimeters now, Vix called out. Another contraction shuddered through the host's body. Brain groaned. It was strong. Too strong. Bloody show. Where are those reinforcements? An unsettled silence fell upon the crew as they were all struck with a horrible realization. There was no help coming this time. Pain sensors were attacking hard and fast now. Brain felt her consciousness slip, losing the ability to focus on anything except the near constant waves of excruciating pain. Brain, lungs gasped. Host is hyperventilating. We need more O2 up here. Pushing muscles at the ready, Brain. Dilation at 10 centimeters. We wait for your go, Brain. Brain only dimly heard them, another contraction shattering her concentration. There's too many of them, she whispered when it finally passed. The chorus of voices stilled, the gravity of the moment lying heavy over all of them. Brain watched in trepidation as the next wave of pain sensors crested. It towered over her, the largest one yet. Brain stood in front of it, tall and defiant. Vix, Yudi, you need to bring this home. Roger that, Brain. The wave slammed into Brain, wiping out everything else. Amidst the roaring, she could just make out the frantic shouting. Easy does it, Yudi. Stay on target. Occupant appears to be stuck. A little to your right. No, your other right. I can't budge him. His shoulder is wedged tight. Push harder. I'm trying. Sweet mucus plug. They're coming with the forceps. Yudi, do something. I can't see anything. There's too much blood. Suddenly, the curtain of pain parted, Brain gasping in relief. The head's breached. Forceps in retreat. One more push, Yudi. Uterus let out a cry of exertion, and then all was still. Good job, team, Brain praised some 20 minutes later, the occupants' cries of protest still ringing out. Why do I always think it will get easier? Uterus lamented. You know, rumor has it some missions actually require 2 or even 3 occupants. That's not funny, Vix. Gonna need a bigger boat, Yudi. Enough, you two, Brain cut in. Let's just enjoy our 4th successful mission. Who knows, perhaps it will be our last. One can only hope, grumbled Bladder. Brain sighed, contented. Okay, Livy, I'm ready for that drink now.
So there we go. I mean, that story is memorable and it deserved to do well, and it did. I believe it served you very, very well in the adventure genre, didn't it?
It did. I got final 4 with that.
Final four,
Yeah.
which is a bit bittersweet, isn't it? Getting all the way there and just riding that kind of adrenaline and cortisol high all the way through the results, and then not quite making it. I say that because I did the same in the same battle. So
Yeah.
whilst we're not talking about my story, we're talking about yours, much more important. But I'm saying no, it is, but I'm saying I understand. It's
Yeah, it was really
yeah.
fun. I mean, I really didn't think it was going to go that far. So every time I kept making it past a round was really exciting. And the semifinals was a bit of a heartbreaker. I lost at 2-3, but I'd also won several rounds 3-2, so I couldn't really complain too much. But
And
yeah,
this is
it was exciting, and it was
yeah. Oh,
more
it is.
memorable because I had like the birth of my son to kind of commemorate that story, and then it did so well, and it's by far my best performing story in writing battle. And yeah, this one was particularly fun to write just because of all the characters and all the dialogue, and I basically wanted to make it as kind of cheesy, adventure as possible. So there's a lot of like little lines in there, from like Star Wars and stuff like
Oh
that,
yes.
for fun.
I don't think that's cheesy. I think don't do yourself down with the word cheesy there. We were talking about this earlier before we started recording, and generally speaking, the advice when writing flash fiction, something of around 1,000 words, is to keep the number of characters pretty low.
Yeah.
I think we had what, 5 or 6, maybe 7 characters in that.
7 characters, yeah.
7 characters, and look, you got all the way to the semi-final.
It was made easier because I'm using characters that don't really need a lot of explanation or backstory, or same thing with the setting. And the setting was kind of by design, using the birth setting, using these characters that are actually just organs. You can save words where you don't have to world build, and you don't have to do as much development in that sense. And then for me, it was nice to be able to really put most of my words towards the actual action of the birth process.
That's a really savvy, judicious writing choice there. I think that's great, and you hit the nail on the head very well there. With you don't have to world build within the body. Everybody's got a bladder.
Yes.
And even those of us who are not biologically equipped like me to physically give birth, we can put ourselves there. Oh, okay, I understand pressure on the bladder, etc., etc. I don't have to go and look up what's a heart, what are lungs.
Yes.
I see what you mean. In terms of your wider writing outside of the competitions, you're a busy bee.
Yes.
You're a busy bee. So what else have you been up to? Tell us more about what you've got going on.
Well, I'm an indie author, and I published my first my debut back in October. Self-published.
Congratulations!
Oh, thank you.
It's okay.
You. Yeah,
just me being nice, because you're doing things that most of us haven't got there. There are so many aspiring authors within the writing battle community. So to hear someone up here who's made it and is self-published and is working on her second, so please do tell us all about the first book. What's it called? What's it about? Where can we find it?
Yes, I'm happy to. So it's called Stepsisters, a dark fairy tale retelling, except it's more just the darkness comes in that I've taken the character of Cinderella, and she's become the villain of my book, and she's
Nice.
pretty
good.
She's pretty evil, yeah. So, but the book itself it's almost like a cozy adventure. I actually got the idea for the book from another flash fiction contest I did. And I had like a fairy tale and some other prompts, and wrote this idea of an evil Cinderella, and then it just kind of took off from there. My husband liked it and was like, well, you should, you could make this a book. And then it was kind of like, I could make it a book. And yeah, it took me about 2 years to do the whole thing.
Wow. Okay.
Writing, editing, all that.
Yeah.
My sister, who did the narration, also did my cover art. So it's very helpful to have
an artist in the family. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because I do want listeners to know the title and where they can find it, because that's an incredibly important detail. But before we talk about that, I think it'd be worth dwelling on, when you went into that competition, were you intending to write a story idea generator type thing, or were you just saying, I'm going to enter this competition and just see what comes up?
Oh yeah, no, I had no idea what my genre was going to be. It was just another competition. I think I'd done about maybe 3 or 4 of them at that point. And yeah, I had no idea I was going to write something that eventually would become a book. I happened to get the fairy tale genre. The idea came to me based off the prompts, and then that was it. And then it just kind of steamrolled from there. Like it was, definitely not intentional. So that was a happy accident. It's really cool how your short stories can kind of take on a life of their own. You can expand them, sometimes absolutely. Very much expand them.
I've heard this expression a few times recently, where you not to refuse the muse. Something pops up, you go with it, and if something excites you, interests you, and that's. I think this is going to be of great encouragement to many listeners out there who maybe have had a story in writing battle or other competitions that's performed okay or not performed the way they want to, but they really like the idea and they want to do something more with it. And Rebecca here is living, walking proof that you can take that story and you can flesh it out into something much, much bigger, something much more significant. And you've worked on that for years now, you said. And look at you go. It's a self-published book.
It is, yep. And
Yeah.
I should note also that it's not a genre I thought I would ever write in. I always thought like my first book would be like more of like a psychological thriller that seemed
Oh,
more
okay.
manageable than doing a fantasy. Fantasy was always overwhelming because so much world building and, you got to
Yeah.
make everything fit. And so I never I never would have intended or probably ever thought of this idea because it wouldn't have even been on my radar to try to write a fantasy. Yeah, it was just cool that it took me in that direction. And then,
Yeah.
I realized like, there's lots of different fantasies. You don't have to write epic fantasy, Brandon
No.
Sanderson level, although I do
No.
love his stuff. So,
But again, you've gone with something when it's occurred to you, and you've had the courage of your convictions to go with what comes up and really run with it, and it's it's really paying off for you. You are a working author. It's fantastic. Like so many of us aspire to be. And I think again, when we were talking about this before the show, you've done something really, really interesting with your story in the current writing battle competition, which I think at the moment is the Verdant Owl competition, I believe, the 2,500 word pro judge contest. So without either of us, particularly me, putting our foot in our mouth, our feet in our mouths, I should say, what have you done here?
I'm not a huge fan of real long short stories. I kind of prefer 1,000 and unders, but I wanted to take part in this one. And it 2,500 words is a lot for a short story.
Oh,
so
gosh,
I thought,
it is. Yeah.
And I'm also trying to write the sequel to my book, and that's taking a lot of time. So I was like, well, I wonder if I could kind of combine these two goals. And so I thought it would be very cool if I could get my prompts to work, that I could use this writing battle competition to write what's called a reader magnet, which is essentially a short story that you use and you can give away for free to people, and then they sign up for your newsletter, like for your freebie. And then so not only are you getting people to sign up for your newsletter, but then they're reading the story that directly relates to your book, and then hopefully are motivated to buy the book. So it's like a little pull back the curtain for people. And it's also fun. This one that I did, I think will be fun for people that have already read my book and know the context, but it also works well as a standalone in that people will understand the context.
Sure.
And yeah, hopefully it'll work to generate some interest there. So I was really excited that I was able to accomplish that. And I was happy with how the story.
And I've not come across that in writing competitions before, where somebody has taken the time to write a really high quality story and to make it stand on its own 2 feet, but also to say, I am using this as a reader magnet. Between us, we have still not made enough of a deal of your book's title, so please do tell us what's it called and where can we find it.
Yes, it's called Stepsisters, and it's available on Amazon. It's on Kindle Unlimited, so if people have Kindle account, and they can download it there. And it's available paperback, ebook, all of that. And I just got it up on Ingram Spark, so I'm going to try to now be getting it into actual physical bookstores. Is my next.
There we go. You're taking over the world. Taking over the world, Rebecca. So there we have Stepsisters by R.L. Lynn, and that's available on Amazon, on Kindle Unlimited, and within however many days and weeks, physical bookstores. And it's got lovely artwork, like you said. Your sister's done a terrific job on the artwork there.
Amazing. Yeah, just phenomenal artwork. Yeah, and it's going to be the first in a trilogy.
My word!
So
you are living the dream. Yeah, but it's with the cheesy expressions. You work at something you love. You never actually work a day in your life. It's a lot of effort.
I love it. I would say I don't like the marketing part of it as much because it's stressful and it's a low payout sometimes.
Yeah, sure,
but
sure.
The writing part is fun, and I would do it even if I wasn't trying to sell it. It's very rewarding.
They pay you for the marketing. You do the writing for free. That sort of thing.
Yes, exactly. Such is the life of an indie author. Yes.
Such is the life.
You do everything on your own. Yep. It all falls on you. But you also have complete control. So it's
that passion for it comes through in everything you do. If this, for our listeners, if this is the first time you've come across Rebecca's stuff, if you check her out on social media, or you see her on the Writing Battle forums and debrief, that passion absolutely shines through. She's clearly really keen on what she's doing. She's not just doing it because it's there or because she's vaguely interested. It's a real drive there, and I think it's inspiring.
Thank you, Chris. That's very sweet.
No, it's not sweet. It's not. It's honest. It's honest. And I think
It can be both.
Yeah.
Thank you. But thank
no,
you.
no, not at all. Not at all. Because if you, a lot of our listeners are Writing Battle competitors themselves, and we love competitions. They're fun. Writing Battle's a great contest, but ultimately people do want to write longer form things and get their writing out into the world. And there's a surprisingly small percentage that ever actually do that, and you are already there. You're already doing it, and it's great to see.
Thank you so much. That's nice to hear. It's good to hear that when you're stuck in the trenches. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. This is R.L. Lynn with her story B-Day and her book Stepsisters. Look out for it on Kindle Unlimited and in all good bookshops.
Thank you so much, Chris. It was really fun coming on the show.
We are joined by Katie D. Hello, Katie. How are you?
I'm great, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Katie's done some really wonderful stuff. She's an excellent writer, and I'm not just here to tell you she's an excellent writer, because she is, but I really like the story of the story, if that makes sense, sort of what she's done with her story since the relevant Writing Battle. So Katie, if you wouldn't mind, just this is harking back a bit, I know, but this is the last cup of coffee. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, good.
Yes,
I'm glad I'm talking about the right story. Oh, good. Okay, that would be embarrassing on my behalf if I wasn't. So if I can trouble you to go back in time and think back to Writing Battle, it was the Wonder Battle, right?
Yes, of 2025.
2025. Yeah. It's been a while. It has, yeah. So if you think back to that, when you landed on the prompts you had, the sci-fi, and was it Salt and
Barista.
Barista, of course, yes. Are you a redrawer? Are you a let's just go with it? Did it naturally land with you? Sort of, what were your prompts when those landed? Sorry, what were your thoughts when that landed with you?
I think it was panic was my first thought. I think that was my 6th writing battle, and at that point I hadn't ever redrawn, and I was kind of challenging myself to continue that trend. I have since redrawn in a future battle, but at that point in time I was really trying not to. And I remember seeing, Salt I could do with, that wasn't too bad, but seeing Barista, I was like, what on earth am I supposed to do with Barista and sci-fi? So I think I had my typical moment of panic where I tell myself I'm never going to be able to come up with an idea. And then, of course, eventually I did. And I stuck with those original prompts. So I seem to have that kind of reaction a lot of times. And it's always fun to see at the end kind of what I end up coming up with. And was happy I got there. But yeah, definitely panic was the first reaction.
Do you know what? I'm often the same. And I think many of our listeners will be the same. That sort of that lovely expectation in a competition that you're getting these prompts and what's coming my way, and then it lands in front of you and it's real, and there's panic. Are you someone who feel free to say yes or no? Are you someone that enjoys the sort of temporary constraint of the prompts?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think that's really my draw for these competitions. Is I really love, even as much as I complain when I get them, I do love getting those wacky, wild prompts. And I think for me, there's something really special about a story that only exists because of those parameters that are given to you, right? So I think it's really fun when I try not to be prompt police or genre police when I'm a pure judge, but there is something really nice about reading a story that only exists because of that competition. So for me, I try not to redraw if I can make it happen. It has come up where I've had to redraw a few times, but generally speaking, I like to work within those kind of parameters that they give us and see what I come up with off the wall prompts.
And that's an excellent point. That idea that I couldn't have said it any better myself. I might have to steal that as a quote. That it only exists because of the parameters and the constraints of this competition, and that's absolutely true. And I think those redraws are there for a reason, right? We shouldn't be hard on ourselves if we do use them. Great if we do, great if we don't, etc., etc. And I know there have been many friendly debates on the forum of whether people want to bother using the redraws or want to say no, I'm going to stick with it all the way through. But ultimately, this is sort of a game, right? It's a contest, and it's
Right.
within the rules. So if you want to use them, fire away. Nobody should feel bad for doing that. Is sci-fi a natural sort of genre for you? Is that something you feel comfortable writing within?
Yeah, definitely a soft sci-fi. I'm never going to be a hard sci-fi writer, but there's something just so nice. It's almost like fantasy in a way of like you
Okay,
basically can just come up with something and say it works because of technology, right? So I like that I don't have to know how machinery works, but I can just say, hey, this cool robot exists in this world that I created. So for me, it's really fun, and I've written quite a bit of sci-fi. I think in my short story journey, I'd say a lot of them have been a sci-fi kind of focus. So they're fun for me, but and reading it too. Actually, I like to read and write sci-fi.
again, within the constraints of the competition with 1,000 words, I think that's a very astute point there. The sort of sci-fi that you refer to it as soft versus hard sci-fi. Now, for the benefit of listeners who, like me, might not know the difference, can you give me a really quick rundown what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think hard sci-fi is really actually based in science and fact. So, man, and I have to come up with an example off the top of my head. It's going to be tough, but I almost want to say, Jurassic Park is probably not actually super hard sci-fi necessarily, but there is a
Okay.
lot of science backing in it, as opposed to something that's kind of just like, hey, we're in space and we're doing things on a spaceship,
Right. No, I see
without
what
like
you
a
mean.
super
So
hard.
I understand. So something that maybe shows you what's under the hood within that world rather than just saying,
Mhm.
here's what we have, let's go with it.
Exactly.
And I
That's
think I think given that you had 1,000 words, I think that was an absolutely perfect decision because otherwise
sure.
there's a risk you spend 700 to 800 of those words explaining the mechanics of what you've got going on.
That's right.
All
Exactly.
right. Well, I feel like I'm straying dangerously close to spoiling the story by talking about the kinds of sci-fi and the robots and stuff. So, if it's
Yeah,
okay with you, now would be a good time to dive on into the story.
great. Yeah,
Fantastic.
sounds
Okay,
good.
so lovely. So here we have, and it's narrated by Annie Benham,
Hmm.
who is an excellent narrator and writer and has been on the show before. So, The Last Cup of Coffee by Katie D, narrated by Annie Benham.
Viscous green fluid sloshes and nearly spills as its container is hurled down the slick cafe countertop. Mel reaches out to stop it, much to the amusement of the man behind the bar. Always wanted to try that. He chuckles and snaps his suspenders. Mel says nothing as she slides the can back towards him, shaking her head. The barista's eyes widen as he realizes his mistake. Oh, you want actual coffee, don't you? Mel nods. The barista, Paul according to his name tag, tries to hide his embarrassment with a smile. Sorry, ma'am, I saw those and I thought. He inclines his head towards Mel's hands, resting on the counter. Titanium forearms and palms reflect the dim lights hanging overhead, while translucent polycarbonate fingers reveal every wire that powers their movement underneath. Her robotic fingers twitch under the scrutiny, but Mel refuses to hide them from sight. She's not ashamed of what her body has become. It's amazing what they can do nowadays, Paul says, his back to her as he presses buttons on his coffee machine. Just the other day, I accidentally served a cup of joe to the most realistic, human like android you've ever seen. Good reminder, one can never assume. I apologize for not asking first. Mel almost takes pity on the man and briefly considers telling him that she did, in fact, have a port on her left hip that could accept the battery boost fluid he'd mistakenly offered her, but she's not in the mood to draw even more attention to her cyborg body. She's come here specifically to order her last cup of coffee. She wants to feel human just a little bit longer. The steaming mug is in front of her moments later. Cream or sugar? Paul asks. Pinch of salt, actually, if you have it. It's a luxury this far away from Earth, and he's sure to charge her extra for it, but Mel doesn't care. Paul's gray eyebrows raise in delight. A woman who knows her brew. A half smile quirks involuntarily as Mel moves to blow on her coffee. My daughter. A memory seizes her still flesh heart, cycling through an impossible spectrum of emotions between beats. Love, pain, fondness, sorrow. Mel blinks away the image in her mind's eye of a smiling teen tying on an apron, excitedly babbling about how she's learned to make latte art, and insisting she could get even Mel to enjoy a cup of coffee, now that she knew all the tricks. Mel has to consciously loosen her grip on the mug, knowing her mechanical hands have more than enough power to break it if she's not careful. She clears her throat and tries again. My daughter was a barista for several years. She told me that adding salt reduces the bitterness. Indeed. Paul smiles, reaching for the salt shaker. Back before the shortage, I recommended it to anyone drinking their coffee black. Nowadays, what with the price increases, I keep the trick to myself. He winks as though they are co-conspirators, rather than two strangers in a tiny outpost cafe on the outskirts of the solar system. Granules of salt fall into the black abyss of the coffee as Mel adds a generous shake. They disappear on impact, and it's hard for her to imagine how something so tiny and innocuous can have such a large effect on the coffee, on the economy, on her own life. She finally takes a sip and immediately winces. Careful, still hot. Paul thinks her reaction is from pain. He's right, though not in the way he thinks. Mel sets the cup back down. She can't decide if it was a good idea to come here or not, the breadth of her complex emotions making it difficult to function, but it felt only right for her last taste sensation to be of coffee. That reminds her so much of Jessica. Paul continues trying to force conversation. Out of empathy or boredom, Mel isn't sure. So what does your daughter do now if she's no longer a barista? If he notices the catch in Mel's breath, Paul doesn't show it. Jessica joined the space fleet. Mel pauses, then surprises herself by continuing. She was captured during the Europa assault raid. His sharp inhale tells Mel she doesn't have to explain. It's well known that 24 troops guarding the major salt mine on Jupiter's moon were ambushed by pirates and taken hostage. When the space fleet refused to negotiate, the pirates destroyed the mine and used the Army's hyperdrive mechanisms to escape. The hostages are presumed dead. The fleet did nothing about it. I'm sorry, Paul says softly. I've spent several months following leads regarding their whereabouts. It's been dangerous. Mel gestures towards her replacement body parts, and taxing. I know it's probably hopeless, but her voice trails off in a whisper. I'm her mother. Paul pats her hand, and Mel appreciates the gesture, though she can't really feel it. With a sigh, Mel composes herself and sips the coffee. She's shared enough with the poor barista. He doesn't need to know she's found the location of the pirate's hideout, or how she plans to exact her revenge. Paul lets her drink in silence. When she slides the empty mug towards him and moves to pay, he finally speaks again. On the house. Mel nods in gratitude. Best coffee I've had this side of the asteroid belt. Thank you, she tells him, and means it. She leaves out that it's her last coffee ever, as tomorrow she plans to upload her consciousness to a full android body. A nearly 60-year-old woman missing half of her original parts couldn't take out an entire base of rebel pirates. But a robot, with the right programming, probably could. Mel takes one last deep breath in the cafe, savoring the bittersweet smell of roasted coffee beans. Then she strides through the doors, looking tiny and innocuous, and disappears into the black abyss beyond.
I absolutely love that story. It's one of those fantastic stories, whether it's sci-fi or fantasy. It's particularly for me, and it may just be me, with speculative fiction, the sort of story that feels like you're dealing with something with many more words than you've actually got. I love how Mel's rationale, her motive becomes clearer and clearer, and I've taken the liberty of getting the story in front of me because, where are you? What I feel, and I will shut up in a minute and let you talk because you're far more important than me, especially with this story. But there's one line you do towards the end that absolutely nails the way you do this sort of thing in any fiction, but particularly flash fiction, where Mel says, I've spent several months following leads regarding their whereabouts. It's been dangerous. Mel gestures towards her replacement body parts. And in just a few words, without talking about any of the incidents, any of the violence, any of the things that led to those replacement body parts, the reader goes, oh, okay. Oh, okay. And suddenly the stakes are 10 times higher. And it's just a brilliant story. Really, really good story.
Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate all of that.
No,
so
no,
much.
I'm not just saying that because you're on the show. I would have politely found a reason to talk about another story if I didn't think it was it was strong. It's a really great story. Then comes for me another level of how interesting this process is, because this story has done what many stories in competitions do, in that the story early on in Writing Battle ducked out of the house stage. I think it was a competition in which once you hit 3 losses, you were out. And the last cup of coffee picked up 2 wins and 3 losses, and out it went. Now, anyone that's listened to it or read it will surely agree, come on, what's going on? Yeah, and that's no disrespect to any of the stories it was up against, but come on, people, this is a really, really, really good story. What took you from that stage to the next thing you did with it, which was awesome, and that we're going to talk about in a minute?
Sure, yeah. I think I never really expect to actually win any of the competitions. I try to make sure I'm writing because I'm passionate about writing, because I want to become a better writer, and because I love, especially in Writing Battle, seeing all the other stories that come out of that from other authors. So I wasn't, too devastated. It was obviously disappointing that it didn't make it further. Also, one of my wins was a bye, so I actually only really won one battle.
It all counts. It all counts, Katie. Come on.
But it's a testament to just how strong the competition is there. But of course it was disappointing, but I had a lot of support both in debrief and during the beta reading process. And actually Annie, who narrated the story, she's one of my dear writing friends, and I think she was probably my number one fan of this story. And she's the one who was probably more upset than I was that it didn't do better in the actual battle. So thankful to Annie, and I was really special that she was able to narrate the story for me. But I think really just because I enjoyed the story, I was proud of the story, I was pleased with how it turned out, and I wanted to do something more with it. So I think really thanks to some of that support and encouragement from the other authors and readers, I wanted to try and find a home for it. So I did actually. I submitted it, I think, to 4 or 5 places, and it got rejected 4 or 5 times. And I was thinking, man, I really didn't want to rework the story. I liked how it worked at a flash length. I didn't really want to expand it per se, but I think it got 4 rejections before I submitted to Uncharted's Refractions contest. And that's where it ended up getting 3rd place and got a little nice cash prize. And it's published on their site now. So it was really cool to see how, really with almost no editing, I may have made a couple tweaks, but really didn't overhaul the story in any way, to go from not really doing as well in Writing Battle, getting rejected 4 times, and then ultimately landing it where it did with Uncharted. So it was nice that it kind of eventually made it there.
Now, Katie is almost being British there in her sort of gentle praise of her own work, and I feel like we should be shouting this from the rooftops, because that, to me, sort of sums up the more commercial, realist writing process, right? And that you love the story, you did it because you loved it. Yes, you were disappointed, but you loved it anyway. You didn't just, chuck it in the bin and go and open another bottle of something. You said, no, I'm going to submit this to something. And then after a few rejections, you didn't give up, which I think many of us, including me, for certain stories have said, you know what, maybe I'm just going to tuck that into what might have been and do something else. But then it picked up 3rd place, and Uncharted, we're not talking about a competition that your next door neighbours made up. We're talking about Uncharted here. That's quite the competition. They've got a very big following, and you took a bronze medal in that. You took 3rd, which is great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was really excited that it happened, and like I said, I think there's probably some other people who were bigger fans of the story, maybe even than myself, and it was fun to finally say, hey, it finally made it somewhere. So really cool that it worked out that way.
Absolutely. And, we do it for the love, right? We go through the admin and the rejections and everything else, but we do it because we love what we do. And that comes through incredibly clearly in the way you talk about your stories, which is just marvellous. So what's next? What else have you got going on, Katie? What's next in the world of Katie D, sci-fi writer and general? It's okay, don't worry, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just thinking that the positivity that you've got and the way you talk about your writing and the way you talk about submitting your writing to publications and competitions, is that sort of where you're at? Are you Are you just doing that? Have you got any longer stories in the works?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think really kind of what you're saying with the submitting and doing the writing contest. I've been doing that for getting close to 2 years now. So I've had a few microfiction and flash fiction length stories get picked up different places. So that's been really fun, and I will continue to do that. I am working on my first attempt at a novel, so I'm about
Oh, that's
60,000
exciting.
words in, which for me,
Sorry,
that's like
I
a
did a
big
very
deal.
I did a very annoying thing. I talked over you completely there. Please say again. You're
That's
working on the
okay.
novel, and how far are you into that?
I'm about halfway. I'm about like 60,000 words into a romantasy novel that I'm working on. So that has been really a challenge, but fun. I'm thankful to have a writing group that we kind of help beta read for each other and bounce ideas off of, or just generally kind of support each other. So shout out to the writing group. But
You can tell us
yeah,
the writing group's name if you want. It's okay.
sure. We call ourselves the Curated Ravens. So we actually met through Writing Battle. So very fitting that we're talking here about Writing Battle
Yeah.
today. We were all part of a site called Curated Microfiction, which was a bi-weekly contest. They've since
Oh, I
shut
remember
down.
that one. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I do
yeah.
remember it though. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we were just kind of the right place, the right time. We a bunch of us were doing that contest and then talking about it on Writing Battles forums. And finally, somebody was like, "Well, why don't we just make a Discord and just kind of have a little group?" And it kind of took off from there. We've been going strong for, I guess, 2 years now almost, and we've all become really close friends and kind of keep it a smaller group, which is great
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And
Definitely. And
it's
I've got to
fun.
say,
So.
as you know, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm part of another group, the up, down, left, right, and I
Mhm.
couldn't agree with you more. Finding something through Writing Battle. If you are someone listening who likes the sound of a writing group but doesn't know where to start, stick something on the forum, put it out there. Say, look, I'm part of Writing Battle. I'm aware there are some groups. I don't know which one to look at. Does anyone fancy joining one? And just open it up and you'll find people. You'll go on Discord or an email and then maybe move on to WhatsApp or whatever it is. But I promise you, it's awesome. It's just awesome, isn't it? It's so much fun to form a writing group and to get cracking on that.
Exactly. It's really great. And when we have contests that we're participating in where we're allowed to beta read for each other, it's nice to have that support system. And for me, I don't really share my writing in real life with a lot of people.
Oh, come
It's not what I
on.
do full time.
Come on.
So I work in a very non-creative, environment for my
Okay,
actual
fair enough.
full-time job. So,
Fair enough.
so it's really nice now to have that group of people to talk about this stuff with and to support each other and all that. So I'm really thankful for all my friends in my writing group. I definitely wouldn't be where I am without them. So, but yeah, sorry,
That's
a little
really
tangent there,
no,
but
no.
but
Tangents are good. I like a tangent. No, so going back to your novel, which you're about halfway through,
Mhm.
which is already no mean feat. Is you said it's a romantasy? Is that what you said? Romantasy?
yes, yes, that's right.
Is
So,
there?
um,
I don't want to jinx it. Is there anything you can tell us about it now, or should we watch this space and come back and chat when you finished it? How do you want to
sure.
share that with us?
Yeah, I don't mind. So it's basically inspired by the traditional tales of Robin Hood. So that's been a big source of influence and inspiration in the story, but kind of taking it in a different direction. And yeah, it's been fun. I'm trying to learn to craft a little bit. I have Save the Cat writes a novel. I've
Oh,
been
yep. It's on my
researching.
shelf right in front of me. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
with you. I'm with you. It's a
yep.
great book. Yeah.
So
I'm glad you're enjoying. Oh, Robin Hood, excellent stories. Slight tangent. Have you seen and enjoyed the Disney version of Robin Hood from several decades ago?
yes,
Oh,
yes,
good.
it's
I'm
very good.
pleased. It is. I'm not suggesting your novel will be that, but it's. Oh, that film has a special place in my heart. Oh,
Yeah.
can you give us a title? Is it too soon for a title? Should we come back another
Uh,
day?
it's called it's called Noble Thieves of Notting Sea.
Noble Thieves of.
Notting Sea, like Nottingham. It's inspired kind of by the Robin
Oh,
Hood
Noble
cities.
Thieves of Notting Sea.
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to go and write that down. Noble Thieves of Notting Sea. Well, I shall look out for that one. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really great having you on. I wish you the very best of luck with the competitions and with the ongoing novel writing process, and that is absolutely no mean feat, as anyone who's listening who's even tried to get that off the ground will know. And yeah, we hope to have you back on and hear from you soon.
Great. Thank you, Chris.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Katie. it's time for the story selection raffle. As you know, if you are a premium subscriber, every premium episode I do a random number generator based against a list of subscribers, and then that person gets to pick a writing battle story of their choice to be narrated and published in a future core episode. It doesn't need to be their own story, and of course the premium members don't need to be writers, don't need to be writing battle competitors at all, but they could be, or they could not be. We welcome everyone here at One More Short Story, so let's get into it. Let's have a look at this list of premium subscribers, and here we go. Just going to click that there. Oh, okay. The winner is Matt Fagan. Congratulations, Matt. I will be in touch to see your choice of writing battle story. Our last story today is actually by me. It's the very, very first story I ever wrote for Writing Battle back in 2024, and I hope you enjoy it. It's been narrated by the wonderful Mark Godwin, who you'll hear from afterwards. He's not a writer. He's an avid reader and a great friend to the show. He's got some really good insights on short fiction and writing and all sorts of things. All sorts of things. This was a 1,000-word flash fiction competition in the culinary catastrophe genre, and the other prompts were professor and statue. So here we go. Here is The Cursed Lasagna of Dr. Strachan by me, read by Mark Godwin.
Emily Strachan had always hated cooking. Tonight, cooking hated her. It was Emily's turn to host the Oxford University Geography Department's dinner party this month. She and the other lecturers shared the dubious honour on a rota, made all the more stressful as they would inevitably end up being joined by Jeremy. Professor Jeremy Bransbury Jones, in his mid-50s and with a staggering disregard for lesser mortals, was what people would call a character. He was also ridiculously influential and respected in his field for some reason, and had invited himself to one of these evenings last Christmas. He had not missed one since. When Emily had last, begrudgingly, hosted, Jeremy had dominated the evening, savaging her cooking.
"Strachan, my dear, it's clear you're more gastropod than gastronomy,"
he had boomed, a foghorn in a teal waistcoat. Emily had just smiled and bitten her tongue, instead of his. The next morning, Jeremy had left a present on Emily's desk and a note.
"Let's hope Malky can give you a few pointers in the kitchen."
Malky, the note explained, was a goddess of all things culinary from thousands of miles away, based in a temple graced with Jeremy's clammy presence in one of his research visits. Emily unwrapped the statue of Malky, 8 inches tall, carved from hardwood, wielding cutlery in each of its 6 hands, a Richter's grin etched on its face. Emily hated this fucking thing on sight. She wished she didn't care so much about Jeremy's influence in academia so she could burn it, or suggest to Jeremy where he could insert it, or both, and not necessarily in that order. Her stubborn nature and her pride meant that she wouldn't, or couldn't, dispose of the gift, and would in fact display it next time she hosted. So here Malky was, sitting on the kitchen windowsill, staring at Emily in a way which unnerved her more than she liked to admit. Preparations had not started well. Emily had gouged the end of her little finger while chopping the vegetables. Once she'd dealt with the first aid, she gave the carrots a quick rinse to wash the blood off and carried on. She then, somehow, managed to squirt the juice from an innocent-looking tomato directly into her eye, then stubbed her toe as she spun, blindly, away from the worktop. Wincing, her attention slowly focused on the wood carving of Malky. "Goddess of cooking, are you?" she spat. "Do you think you could give me a bloody break, please?" Nonetheless, Emily was determined. Her guests would be treated to mushroom stuffed with goat's cheese, followed by her mother's signature lasagna with freshly baked brownies for dessert. How's that for gastronomy, Bransbury Jones? After Emily had successfully endured the waffle spewing from Jeremy as he lumbered through the front door, managing to avoid one of his sweaty embraces, she was laser-focused and, passing the other guests in the living room with a practiced smile, she was ready to impress in the kitchen. 6 seconds later, she had burnt all of the fingers on her right hand on an oven tray. She stifled her scream, biting her cheek and pushing her head down into her chest, managing only to let out a strangled "Urgh." As the pain spread and her fingers began to throb, she looked up at the idol on the windowsill, which she swore had a wider smile than before. "Don't you fucking start," she hissed at Malky. There was no time to run her hand under cold water. She would just have to pretend she wasn't in agony for the next few hours. To Emily's relief, the mushroom starter was well received. Even Jeremy could only manage a shrug of indifference before turning the conversation back to himself. High praise indeed. The rich, cheesy aroma of her mother's lasagna drifted in, distracting her from the pain in her fingers for a few sweet seconds. She stood up from the table, relaxed her shoulders for the first time in over 5 hours, and graciously accepted the handful of platitudes before returning to the kitchen. Upon opening the oven door, remembering her oven gloves this time, Emily was greeted by the remains of what used to be her main course. The Pyrex dish had inexplicably shattered, releasing the lasagna in every direction gravity would allow. Molten cheese, minced beef, carrots, tomatoes, and the rest, all oozing in dismembered disgrace, down through the inside of the oven, peppered with shards of broken glass, dripping onto the brownies baking on the shelf below. "Fucking hell!"
"Oh dear,
came an unwelcome and all too predictable screech from the next room.
having a spot of bother, are we, Strachan? Did you forget to turn the microwave on? Has the pizza delivery chap let you down?"
Emily clenched her teeth, inhaled deeply. The cocktail of lasagna and brownie was a surprisingly pleasant smell, and was about to retaliate, when she caught sight of the grotesque statue on the windowsill. An absurd idea struck her. Could it be? Could Jeremy have somehow doomed this dinner party, this entire kitchen? Could Malky, in fact, be a force for mischief and evil, disrupting the culinary effects of all whose houses she blighted? Or, she reasoned, was Jeremy just a condescending prick with bad taste in sculpture? Either way, Emily had reached her limit. Fueled by the throbbing in her fingers, her wounded pride, and the months of unwarranted tolerance for Jeremy, she grabbed the biggest saucepan on the worktop and rammed the statue into it. She then scooped out as much disintegrated dinner from the oven as she could fit in the pan, before marching through to the dining room and delivering the last word of what the local press would label a cheesy catastrophe. As Emily explained to her parole officer a year or so later, picking through the leftovers of the previous night's takeaway, she regretted nothing at all about that night.
So very exciting. We are joined today by Mark Godwin. Now, Mark has narrated The Cursed Lasagna of Dr. Strachan, which we've just heard, but we're not here to talk too much about the story because I'm very, very glad Mark is here. Mark, hello, thanks for joining us.
Well, hello, Chris. Good to be here.
Very good to have you here. First ever in-person interview. I've done a couple of online interviews with some of the writers, but with this one being my story, I didn't want to interview myself because that's taking egotism to a new level. But I thought interviewing you as narrator, and also because you're not someone who I think you said has a lot of experience with audiobooks. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I read a lot, and I've read ever since I was really young. I've never really got into audiobooks as a medium until I started listening to One More Short Story.
And it's very kind of you to do that. Mark, for those of you that haven't guessed by now, Mark is a friend. I haven't just grabbed him off the street and dragged him in. And he has started to listen, as many friends and family of our team have done. But he's gone beyond that. Like he's one of our most committed listeners. And he's just chatting to him the other day. He's got some really good insights into the podcast and his own enjoyment of audiobooks. So what's your take on this much sort of shorter form of audiobooks? Because, traditionally people would listen to a much longer book. It would take several hours. Maybe they play it over a few longer car journeys and so on. These ones being so short, What's your take on that sort of versus longer pieces of fiction?
So what I found is I appear to have a terrible attention span. I find myself getting very easily distracted and my attention wanders from what's happening in the story. While it's talking in my ear, I find that my focus over time just disappears, and I'll then suddenly come back to it and realise that I've just missed 15 minutes of whatever was being talked about. So one of the things with these being short stories that are only, maybe between 5 and 10 minutes long, I've had to teach myself to concentrate and listen, and doing that for 5 or 10 minutes is actually very beneficial and very doable. The fact that these are the short story format has introduced me to a totally new way of receiving a story. And I find the short story format quite fascinating because the writers do an amazing job in setting a scene, telling a story quite often with a twist or something, and then ending it in such a short space of time. Not only do I make myself focus, I find it's a real benefit where it makes me detach from all the stuff that's going on, be it work or home or whatever. And I actually just, for that 10 minutes, whether I'm walking the dog or driving somewhere, although I try not to focus too hard on it when I'm driving.
We're not responsible for any automotive incidents, just so you're clear. Now, legal team, is me. No.
Yeah, so for me, I find it makes me detach from the day to day in a.
It sounds like an escape, really.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's really good. And you sent me messages and things. We've chatted about some of the stories that have stuck in your head. Are there any? And I'm not putting you on the spot here. I've not got a list. I've not got a bunch of authors waiting to come round to your house and have a word. Are there any that sort of spring to mind? You think, do you know what, that twist or that moment or that idea really did stick in your mind when you heard it?
Yeah, there's one that I can't forget the name, which was Pancakes McBride. That was not a story I was expecting.
Nobody was expecting Pancakes McBride.
And there is one that I can't remember the name of the. I'm terrible with names of anything. Okay. And it was about a car.
Oh yes, the red car.
Yes. Yeah. That if people haven't heard it, I won't say too much.
No, but it's unsettling, right?
I remember. I even remember where I was.
Wow. Okay.
I was with my doggies walking around Radley Lakes, a park nearby.
Yeah.
And I was walking through woodland.
Yeah.
And slightly scared. But yeah, the author there, all due credit, in an incredibly short space of time, just built a narrative that was genuinely frightening.
So there we go. Two authors singled out, and I did not give him any prep time at all for that question. I just wanted to see what he'd say. But it's no surprise those two. Pancakes McBride by Ben O'Neill. It's still talked about in the writing battle community to this day. And Casey Moss, who did The Red Car, did a terrific job with that one. I completely agree. Very unsettling story. Yes. So Pancakes McBride was narrated by Ben himself. Very funny story, very funny guy. Casey's story, Ryan's a terrific narrator. He runs his own audio company. The production that was on his stuff was so good. That's a Page Vox for anyone out there looking for a audio production company for their own work. Good. Well, I'm glad they're stuck in your head. Yeah, I think and this is, I'm looking to get the show out to more people because the writing battle community are amazing. Many of them like short stories in audiobook format. Many of them, that's not for them, which is, fair enough. Yeah. Horses for courses. I'm looking to share this with people doing exactly the kind of things you were talking about there. So I'm going to listen to the stories while I walk the dogs, while I'm doing the washing up. I had someone message me the other day while they were scrubbing the sheet pans in the kitchen of where they worked. Have you got any thoughts on that from someone who's outside the writing community of what's the benefit of engaging with these shorter form stories?
I think it's exactly what we've just been talking about, is because it's a nugget, because it is a short story, you get the beginning, the middle and the end and the twist in a really easily digestible time period. The commitment in some ways I feel to listen to a full audio book of, it can be anything from 4 to 10, 12 hours. That is actually a lot of commitment.
Mark did narrate my story, The Cursed Lasagna of Dr. Strachan, and I'm very grateful that he did. So obviously, you'd read that story before, but you wouldn't have read it loads and loads of times. How did you find the process of taking that short story, which, again, only has a couple of main characters in it, that process of taking it and bringing it to life in reading it? How did you find that?
It wasn't anything I ever thought I'd do, but about 3 or 4 years ago, I decided to start trying to do things that scared me, which I've never really enjoyed the sound of my own voice. So even doing this is a tiny bit terrifying.
Well, I love it. We love your voice here, Mark. We like hearing you. There's a really gentle and sort of almost Ringo Starr type, Thomas the Tank Engine style narration, but obviously much more grown up.
If I could get a job narrating Thomas the Tank Engine, I would probably take that.
Yes.
It probably pays quite well.
I think you're probably right.
So I think I was actually listening to one of the episodes and you said if anyone's interested in narrating, get in touch.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it was just something I never thought I'd do. And I thought, why not? I think when I messaged you, I allowed you to diplomatically decline the offer.
No.
But I was delighted when you took it up, and you actually gave me one sentence, a very easy and enjoyable story to read.
Everyone has those 1 or 2 sentences when they're reading a story that, for whatever reason, just won't come out their mouths in the way they want.
Yeah.
But now, how good is that? Being able to think, do you know what? I want to do some stuff that scares me, and for me, that would just be, more time in front of the mirror or getting up out of a chair and I'm not expecting it, that sort of thing. But no, it's always good to push ourselves, isn't it, and to do things we maybe haven't done before. And Mark makes an excellent point. If you are listening and thinking, do you know what, I quite fancy narrating a story, do get in touch. Best thing to do is drop us an email. You can get in touch on Patreon, and I'll see those messages, and we can arrange you sending me a short clip, and we can work out what sort of story might fit your voice. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. This has been Mark Godwin. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
It's really humbling and inspiring to be part of such a great community of writers and of readers, and to be in a position where I can sit here in this chair in my house with my little microphone and share these insights, these stories that people have made, these things with love. They've poured their time and their energy into it, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We'll look forward to seeing you next time on One More Short Story with me, Chris Fulwell. We'll see you next time.